sucks.
Yeah, that does suck. I really want you to desperately name your son Nick Jr. just because of Nickelodeon from like the 90s.
It would be a problem.
Yeah. Well, for his generation, they probably like Nick Jr. What the fuck is that?
Yeah. My dad's weird. So we got to come up with names. That's a whole beast.
Carl. Craig.
Great. Jared.
Don't you fucking dare. Unless I die or something like that. That's the only acceptable thing.
You die, that'll be Pat Conlon Naylor.
Pat Conlon Naylor. Oh, man.
Just
that's fucking hilarious.
Actually do it. Just eventually Pat finds out. He's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? What are you doing?
I just really like you, man, and I miss you.
How are you?
Oh, man. That's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, no, that is tough, though.
Yeah, it's
because if you fuck up, you're just like, you're just ruining them. You know?
Yeah, just so
well, maybe that's a bit hyperbolic, but you're not setting them up to not get made fun of.
And I feel like most people don't take it seriously enough. It's just like, listen, this person has to get a job eventually. And no offense, but presumably not in the sex industry. So why don't you name them accordingly? Right? Like don't lead them down the wrong, like, it's just like, what the fuck? But the people naming their kids, it's just a fucking problem.
Robert Bareback Davis.
It's it's like you shouldn't be allowed to do that. And if you put on the birth certificate like a symbol, like the hospital should say, is there an adult in the room that wants to fill this out? Like, right? Like, it's like that's just not how the language works.
Yeah. I feel like you should, I don't know how you would do it, navigate it like from a societal perspective, but I feel like you should be 18 before you choose your name.
Yeah, probably.
And I mean, I guess you can change your name, obviously. Yeah. There's nothing stopping you, but like, also, I just think that it's a weird thing that your parents are just bestowed with this power to just call you something, and then you're just stuck with it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely, it's a problem. You know, the only symbol that's appropriate if you're gonna name a kid and use a symbol is the exclamation point.
Why?
Because then it's just like, well, what's is your son's name Mark? And you're like, no. Mark. it's just like the aggressive form of the Randy. Like, it's just like whatever. Like, that's the only way you should be able to use it. Like,
normalize putting exclamation points at the end of people's names. Like, think about Elon Musk's like 50th child or whatever it was that he had with that Grimes chick, and it's like AY, so might as well be like AYSO or some shit like that. But it's even more convoluted and crazy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I do not know all the names of his children, but I've seen them before, and I've just been like, this reinforces that I think that dude's not on the level, and people shouldn't take him seriously.
Yeah, one of his kids like absolutely hates him.
Well, the transgender, she disowned him, and
right. Which, like, you got to really hate someone that has billions of dollars to be like, you know what?
The richest, yeah.
I don't think that I can have a relationship with you. When you're like, I don't know, if I stick it out, I'm kind of set for
a weird amount of zeros at the end of this.
Kind of set for my life and my children's life and their children's life and their children's life.
He's got too much money.
Or I could fucking disown him and go
do whatever.
That speaks volumes to me, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, seriously, think about that. Like, people, they get like golf, for instance. There's like this whole controversy with like Live Golf and PGA Tour. like the split, and like obviously Live Golf is like supported by Saudi Arabia, and they're obviously horrible human rights abusers and generally not seem like, at least from a governmental standpoint, the greatest. And but they have outrageous amounts of money, and they threw a bunch of money at these golfers, and people are just so fast and quick to be like, I would never do that. I would never support a country that has such a bad human rights abuse record. And it's like, that's easy for you to say, you that is just a random Joe Blow and not a fucking professional golfer that is getting offered literally hundreds of millions of dollars in the case of some of the higher profile players. Tiger Woods supposedly was offered $1 billion to go and play. And that's the wrong guy to offer $1 billion to, because it's like, I don't need that shit.
He doesn't need $1 billion.
But it's one thing to, stand on a soapbox and be like, oh, I would never, sell myself for that kind of money. But it's like, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong to take the money, but what I am saying is I think it's a lot harder of a fucking consideration and decision than you're making it out to be. I'm sorry.
You can understand why some of those golfers would go and do it when I think if you were to put on paper what they were making at each spot, there's probably pretty big discrepancies. Because I would imagine, and I could be wrong because I don't follow this stuff, that in golf there's a lot of heavy hitters that are bringing in a lot of money, and there's a lot of really good golfers that the dollar value they're bringing in just pales in comparison.
You're absolutely right.
They probably got blown out of the water by offers of 5 or 10 times of what they were probably making.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, whether it's right or wrong, it shouldn't necessarily be a surprise that some of those people would say, I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's hard for me to point the finger on that stuff. I'm not a fan of the Saudis in any way, but you stand on a soapbox, you're like, well, the human rights is just a problem. And it's like, well, there's a lot of people in the Middle East that don't have parents because the United States government bombed them and their parents were terrorists. So there's a lot of human rights violations that have occurred. So don't just sit there and pat yourself on the back and think that the United States is just clean, because they've taken a lot of kids and a lot of parents from people that weren't terrorists in the pursuit of bombing the fuck out of terrorists. So it's like, make your decision. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is fundamentally a argument of hypocrisy, right? You can stand up and granted, the Saudis in comparison to American, laws and procedures, much different ball game. But also you're absolutely right. Nobody's innocent, and to kind of act like, our government and, the people that are involved in it are completely innocent, I think is kind of ridiculous. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just fundamentally set aside any of the issues that you may have one way or another. It's a tough decision, because you're absolutely right. From a golf standpoint, you can be a top 1% golfer. And if you're not making cuts, you're not making money. Right. And that's the biggest thing. The cut, if you make the cut at the end of midpoint of a tournament, yeah, you're going to net some money. And probably if you're on the PGA Tour, you're going to net a pretty substantial amount of money. But that is no guarantee. That is all dictated by your ability to make that cut. And with golf in particular, it is so, you rarely find someone that just dominates consistently. There are outliers like Tiger Woods and right now Scotty Scheffler that is just dominating everything pretty much and won so much money because of it. But there are also a lot of people that are very good at golf, but don't make consistent cuts, so their money's cut down. And then you have an entity that comes in and says, hey, we're going to sign you to a more traditional sports contract that the NBA or baseball player or a football player would see. And you're guaranteed money every single fucking tournament that you play in. You can potentially make more money if you perform well in said tournaments, but you still get a baseline salary regardless, and you're on a contract with us, right? That's an appealing prospect.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a bit of a heavy, difficult conversation, but there's an argument that you can make as far as international politics, in that in some of these countries that really operate under like pretty authoritarian like regimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
However you want to say it, like the more McDonald's they have, the more people in Nike hats they have. Is it's a culture. It's culture coming into a country that does not allow that type of thing, or that tries to have a firm grip.
Mm-hmm.
And the bigger you open that stuff up, you're allowing the general public within the countries to get these slices of what the world outside that country is.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that golf's going to solve Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
But a population that becomes more and more aware of what the rest of the world is doing,
Mm-hmm.
potentially lays the groundwork to get some sort of better life, potentially.
Yeah, sure. I think that the big argument from like people that rally against it is that this is all in pursuit of kind of whitewashing, for lack of a better word, their really heinous track record.
You're trying not to give a platform or normalize someone that probably doesn't deserve it.
Right. Yeah. So it's like that's their goal with like this huge investment in sports and sports entertainment is like as long as you're kind of blinding people with like all of these positive things, we couldn't possibly be murdering journalists in, Turkey, chopping them up into little pieces because they said bad things about us. We couldn't possibly be like repressing women's rights and not allowing them to drive because you see this sweet golf thing we got going on over here. It's pretty fucking sweet. Did you know that Ronaldo plays in Saudi Arabia? Pretty fucking sweet. He's good at kicking a ball with his feet. And so that I think is the most problematic aspect of it, for sure, is that like this is all in aims to kind of like gin up their reputation or their image.
It's PR.
Yeah.
Like
$1 billion PR, billions and billions and billions of dollars of PR, which I think is problematic. They're also, inching their way into esports in like a very significant way. There was just a Street Fighter tournament not too long ago that was pretty prolific and a lot of like the best players, and you have like no argument for those people that are like, I won Evo and I won $5,000. Literally, I think actually it was a little bit more than I think Punk, who won Evo for Street Fighter this year, he won like 12 grand. And it's like,
Evo got you 12 grand.
12 grand for the biggest tournament. I mean, Capcom Cup is $1 million prize pool. So that's the biggest for Street Fighter in particular. But Capcom Cup is a very limited access. Like you have to win qualifiers to get there, where Evo is like an open format. Anybody can enter. And if they make it through the brackets, they can win Evo. Right. And it is viewed as like the pinnacle of, fighting game competition is Evo. So the fact that they're only winning that much money, and then you have the Saudis come in and be like, hey, you want to fucking make like so much more than that to play Street Fighter? It's like you can never like. I have a hard time criticizing those people that are like, yeah, because they're just fucking average Joes. You can make more of an argument for like golf because it's like if you're on the PGA Tour, you're making some cuts. Even low end, you're probably high 6-figure salary a year, right?
I mean, as anyone on the PGA, everyone on the PGA Tour is probably getting sponsorships.
Probably most of them, yeah.
Because if you're on the PGA Tour, you show up on TV.
Yeah.
And if you show up on TV, then someone wants to own the shirt you have, right?
Yeah, and they also have equipment manufacturer sponsors, which they're getting free gear and also getting paid by those manufacturers. So it's a little bit different, right? Like, I mean, it's a different stratosphere when we're talking about like esports competition. I know that like MOBAs, they make a good amount of money in comparison to like, and Counter-Strike for that matter, they make a lot more money than other esports competitions, but still like even those people, it's like, I don't know, these guys over here fucking offer us a lot of money to play the game that we're really good at, right? I don't know, it's a harder one.
it's hard to say what you do because I don't think you and I are. I mean, I'm pretty good at May, but no one has approached me personally. Like Saudi hasn't been like, "Hey, we saw your skills.
We saw your sweet ice walling dog.
We think you should come over here.
You get on the squad."
So it's
yeah, for sure. But it's pretty crazy. And then like the Embracer Group, which has bought up like all sorts of video game companies.
They seem great.
They are large Saudi investment in the Embracer Group, right? And so it's like, I don't know. I mean, money is going to allow you to travel and proliferate in all sorts of different avenues. So like, that's another kind of argument to this whole thing is like, we act all outraged about like certain aspects of this, but it's like, if you really do your research, I bet you and dig deep, I bet you would find a lot of Saudi money and a lot of things that you might support and
not be stoked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now people are going to be like, these guys are paid off by the Saudis.
They're suddenly we're in a new studio. It's like super fucking nice.
There's a Lamborghini in the background, and it's just like, I don't know. I worked hard, saved up my money, and got this Lamborghini. It was the most reasonable choice for me.
It just made sense.
Yeah.
People can jump over it. Seen a lot of videos lately of where they just drive it down the road and a guy jumps over it.
Okay.
And I'm just like trying to imagine myself. I don't think I could do it, but that guy seems like he can do it.
I think that unequivocally 100% you or I could not do it.
My knees would just hit the windshield and I would go,
we would get severely injured if we tried.
Yeah.
No, that, I don't know. It's weird, but also, hit us up if you're interested in sponsoring us.
Whatever. We'll sell it. For sure.